And I'm smiling on the inside.
Hello, everyone. This is reality TV tonight.
Yeah, it was quite real.
It's
The last couple of days.
it's been a week. It's been a week. So it's kind of ironic that we had already planned to be talking about groundwork, and I did a big groundwork webinar on Sunday because we had like a major emergency, which we're not totally out of the woods yet. But basically a fire started right behind our barn. And
we had to go.
Yes. So we have spent the last 2 days like
moving
moving
horses,
through
not only
fire.
our horses, everybody else's, just whatever. Horses needed to be moving.
Yes. And it's always very scary. And it also always makes you like very much think about how important it is that your horse will just get in a trailer. Like, especially
some of the horses we had to leave behind.
Yes, because they wouldn't get in the trailer. So, and they're fine, luckily.
Yeah, the barn is fine. Edges of it burned. We are certainly not the worst recipients of the fire that, there's people who have lost their homes. They've lost everything. We don't have that. Our horses are safe. Part of the fence is burned. Some things burned.
It's smoky.
Somebody lost some saddles and whatever, but everything's safe.
Yeah. So, and it is, when you're in that situation, you take the horses that load. Like, you take the horses that march on the trailer, and the ones that don't, like the ones that can't get in the trailer, you're like, all right, bring another horse, because there's no time.
There's no time.
So anyway, so what I thought we'd do tonight is we would go through like kind of what has happened over the last 2 days. I jotted down some notes of just kind of like some takeaways and some lessons learned from our experience the last 2 days. And then it's also so fitting because enrollment is open for Groundwork Essentials. So that is a course that's all about the foundation and the basics and groundwork. And in the webinar on Sunday, I made this analogy about how groundwork is like an insurance policy. And it was so funny because over the last 2 days, we have definitely used that insurance policy a lot. Just the amount that you need to be able to like handle your horses, load them in the trailer, unload them, take them to new places in the dark. Like, it's so important. So anyways, what happened Wednesday morning, I was sitting here at my desk because Wednesday is my computer day when I have like my team meetings. I do all my computer work on Wednesday. And all of a sudden, Merle, our vet, she texted me and she was like, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And I was like, "Oh, if my vet is texting me, like that's
serious.
That's not
That's something to take notice of."
So I was on a Zoom call with my mom and Nicole was here, and I was like, "All right, we have to go." So get out to the barn, and like the roads were closed. That's the other thing, is like they close the roads, and so you can't get to the barn. You can't get to the horses, which is so scary.
Right. You have to get there early. You have to get there before the fire department and then do what you need to do.
Yeah. So Cindy, yes, I am going to Idaho tomorrow. I'm exhausted, but I'm going to sleep tonight, and I will be in Idaho tomorrow. So don't worry.
Lean one way so they can all see the dog.
Yes, the dog is here. The dog is exhausted also.
He's been traveling with us.
Yeah, we spent the night in the horse trailer last night. Okay, so anyways, I get to the barn. There's like fire everywhere. It is like totally smoky. The fire's like right across the street. And luckily, we always leave our trailer and our truck hooked up at the barn, which is like...
Right. So if anybody you need a truck and a trailer, the keys are in it. Feel free, steal it. It's right there at the barn all the time. Good job.
Yes. And that is so essential, right? Because that saves you time. So when I got to the barn, I like pulled the trailer up, and then, sorry, I have so much smoke and ash in my eyes. So I loaded up like 4 horses, and driving them out was like literally I was driving through.
So the trees on the side of the road are on fire. So there's just this circle of fire and smoke, and you can't see the asphalt. And that was through one of the really tight turns where you have to slow down, and
You
and
couldn't
the trees are
see,
close to the road.
yeah, you couldn't see the lines on the road, and it was so hot, like you could feel the flames through the truck. And I had like 4 horses in the trailer.
Which,
And
by the
then
way, so that heat, right? It's burning up oxygen, and your car needs oxygen to burn fuel. And then what happens if the fire takes up all the oxygen? There isn't enough to keep your car running, and that's when you get stuck on the road.
yes,
So yeah, it's all pretty terrifying.
yes. And Kane's texting me. Hopefully everything's fine. But anyways, so I made it through, and then I went back. Like that was the thing. I dropped the horses off. I came back, and they like didn't want to let me in again. And so I had to like beg the police officer to let me in. And then I got through, I took I think 4 trips, and um the horses that loaded the best got out first.
Right.
And the horses that didn't load, I
Had to
had to,
wait.
yeah. And I had, so there was one horse, and here's the thing is that when you're in that panic situation, that's why it's so important that you do your groundwork before you get into a panic situation. So that means like every day practicing that your horse leads, that your horse stops, that your horse backs up, practicing that you can lower your horse's head, that you can load your horse in the horse trailer. You have to do all that stuff before it's like fire day.
No, Betsy, my truck didn't burn.
No,
That's
our
just,
truck did not burn.
that's what happens. That's how you burn a truck. That's what happens. The fire takes the oxygen, and now you don't have any oxygen to drive your car, and that's how you get stuck on the road. But that didn't happen to us. I'm just saying that's what does happen.
So anyway, so I have a few tips though. Specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about trailer loading. And this is a big part of the Groundwork Essentials course, is like giving you all the foundation, all the ground manners, and then helping you to be able to load your horse in a trailer. Because I think this is where a lot of people they do it wrong, and then the horses get really freaked out and really scared about loading into a horse trailer. And I think the biggest tip is that you need to practice trailer loading when you're not on a time schedule. So it's something that you need to practice when you just
We got
have
time, and
unlimited time.
and you can be super patient, because trying to hurry a horse is not a good idea.
Yeah.
You need to be able to give them the time so that they can process this scary thing that you're making them climb into. Why don't you check that, make sure
Everything's
okay?
fine.
Okay.
Everything's fine. But yeah, what's the quote? It's like, if you let it take the time it
If
takes,
you let it take all the time it takes less time.
Yeah. And so, practice your groundwork, practice your ground manners, practice trailer loading when you have unlimited time, when you're not needing to get to a show or get out for a fire. That's super important. The other thing that's really important is timing. And so today I went, we needed to evacuate some 2-year-old babies, and when I got there, they'd been trying to load these babies for like a long
40
time.
minutes at least.
Yeah. But their timing was off. So here's the thing is, when your horse is like nervous about the trailer, when they look in the trailer, or when they sniff the trailer, or when they take a step towards the trailer, you have to release the pressure, breathe for a minute, and like pet them and just be like, the trailer's the good place. Because what happens too often is when the horse starts going in the trailer,
Then they try to push it.
then they just try to shove the horse. And then the horse is like,
Getting
danger, danger.
Getting punished for trying.
Yes. So it's about timing. It's about pressure when your horse isn't going in the trailer, and release when your horse does go in the trailer. And this week's YouTube video is actually a little clip of me trailer loading Ralph into a 2-horse straight load. And Ralph is not the easiest horse to load. I did have to evacuate Ralph, and we did get him in the trailer. So that was important. But it's really important, that timing. Like, outside the trailer is a bad place, inside the trailer is a good place. And if you can get your horse to try and get them to like put a foot up and then pet them, and even when you're in a hurry, you have to like you have to take that moment to just like, it's okay, this is your happy place, breathe, pet your horse. And then the other thing that I always do is if I have a horse that's difficult to load. So one of my horses at Fox Canyon, I couldn't get him in the trailer. And so I had someone else like drive the horses out and I stayed there with him and I worked with him for like 10, 15 minutes. I put a rope halter on him because a rope halter is a lot more effective than just a leather halter. So because I had the rope halter on him, I could be more effective. And I also got my flag. So rope halter, a flag. The other thing I did when I started evacuating horses yesterday is I put boots on. You really need to have good boots on when you're evacuating or when you're trailer loading.
Yeah, you need to have decent footwear because things
it-
are happening.
and if you get stepped on, they can really easily break your foot. It happened to my brother because those bones in your foot are tiny. And it's not that hard. If they step on you, they just crush those bones. And then you have to get a plate in your foot and you're on crutches for like 8 weeks and it's horrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
So the first thing I did when I got to the barns, I put my helmet on. I put my tall boots on. I didn't have paddock boots. So I was just like wearing my tall boots all day. I put gloves. And that's like really important. It's always safety first. So that's important. The other thing is make sure that your horses can back up. That is like essential.
Yes.
Because if you put your horse in a straight load and they don't back up, you
might
can't
be there a
get
while.
them out of the trailer.
I had a horse come to me from Virginia and it stayed in the trailer the whole trip. They couldn't back it out of the trailer. And then it got across the country in the trailer for 5 days. And then it got to the place and I had to back this thing out.
Yeah.
And I was there most of the day.
Yeah. How'd you get it out?
Patience and some determination. I mean,
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is that, yeah, it's important for a horse to know how to back up.
Yeah. And I feel like as horse owners, it's our responsibility that our horses are well mannered and that we can load them in the horse trailer. Like it's just like the basics. And it's so important, not only for if there's a fire, but for if your horse needs to get to the vet or,
if your horse is difficult to handle, you've made that horse's life difficult.
Yeah.
Because then he's got a reputation and then it's just, and then bad things happen to that horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's
the horse's life is difficult if it doesn't behave well.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is that like skills on the ground, you developing those skills on the ground are really important. And it doesn't take that much more time to just get your horse respectful, get your horse listening, get your horse paying attention on the ground. Like it doesn't add a lot of time to what you do anyways with your horses. And the other thing that's really cool about working with your horse on the ground is it transfers over to the riding. Like getting your horse to load in the trailer is very similar to getting your horse to trot from a walk or to getting your horse to pick up the canter. Like it's all about the timing and the aids and the feel for that.
Yeah.
So it makes you a better rider also if you're good with your horse on the ground.
Because you'll feel the moment.
Okay, so here's another little trailer loading trick that I used. This do I have something in my teeth? Yeah. You do too. We were just like we were starving because
we stuffed dinner before we came onto the TV.
We slept in the horse trailer last night. Well, he did. I slept there until 1 a.m. and I had a terrible headache from inhaling so much smoke.
Well, because the trailer there was not. You couldn't.
I was sleeping in the trailer full of smoke.
With the door closed and the windows rolled and it was so full of smoke, and so she wasn't feeling well. I had to get back home.
Yes,
anyway.
It was bad. So when I was loading those 2-year-olds, right, one of the trailers was like brand spanking new. Like it had never had a horse in it before. And so the ramp was like very black and rubbery and like smelled funny and like scary looking. And you could just see this 2-year-old was like, no way. So here's a good trick to know. I was like, let's get some dirt and put dirt on the ramp so that it looks like the same as the sand. And then the horse went in so much easier. So that's another good tip is like to make it look kind of similar to the rest of the ground, or like put some shavings on the ramp if your horse is really afraid of like the black rubbery feeling of the ramp. And that really helps the baby to just give him that confidence. Like, oh, it's just up, but it's the same kind of area.
Right. Doesn't, oh God, Temple, what's her name?
Temple Grandin.
Temple Grandin. She has that about, when you're trying to get the cows through the chutes and stuff and the lights and the colors and all of that.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference to the animals.
Yeah.
Because they're not reasoning, they're just seeing what they've never seen before.
Yeah. So I think that's all. What do we have? Oh, one other important groundwork or trailer loading tip that we always do, which is it's best if you have two people and if you can have someone hold your horse in the front. Like I don't like to tie them in front until we've either put the butt bar up or put the divider over.
Yeah.
So if you can have someone hold them in front and then put
And
the
then you
divider
get yourself
over.
out because the horse is going to want to follow you right back out.
Yeah.
Because if you've taught your horse to be with you, then it's with you on the way out.
So get someone to go around to the front window and hold the horse there while you do the partition or the butt bar. Then tie your horse up. But you don't want to tie your horse up before you've put the partition over or they can pull back.
Right. What happens is, like all of us, it's an instinct. If you feel that pressure when you pull, you don't give to that pressure. You pull harder against it. So the horse will feel that tie and then pull back, feel the pressure, and then really pull back and go flying out of the trailer and never want to go in there again.
And hit their head and
it's just all bad.
Yeah.
So you want to get them closed in the back so that when they back up and they hit that, they stand still.
And then same thing when you're unloading them, you want to unhook them in front before you open the partition, right? So that because if you open the partition and they're still tied and they start like wanting to go out too quickly, then that can also be really dangerous.
Gina's comment about I'm so lucky that my horse self-loads. So either you or whoever had the horse before spent a lot of time and made that a great horse.
Or the other thing is probably the horse never had a bad experience, because that's important too, is like if your horse has a bad experience with a trailer, then it's
hard to overcome.
Yeah.
They don't like them.
But if you do it right from the beginning, like if you just take your time and build your horse's confidence to go in the trailer from the beginning, then it's not such a big issue. It's also easier usually if you have like a good horse. You always load the best horse first, like the one that loads easily first.
Because they'll stay quiet in the trailer while you bring in Ding Dong.
Yeah, and then the other horses will like go better behind them. I think that's really important. And what else do we have about trailer loading?
Right, and that's a good tip too. Don't hold. How do you say that? Lease. Yeah, that is absolutely true.
What does she say?
Don't hold on to the lead if they want to start to back up. You have to go with them and let them back up. Don't make it a fight, because if you make it a fight, now we're fighting, and we don't want to be fighting.
Yeah. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll take them out of the trailer and like make it difficult for them out of the trailer. Like, and I teach this again in the course, but like make them do their circles and their backup and all this stuff out of the trailer. And then when they go to the trailer, they get to rest. And then take them out of the trailer and they get to work. And then when they go in the trailer, they get to rest. And then pretty soon they'll want to go in the trailer instead of feeling like you're trapping them in the trailer. And that's super important. So what else? So we got all the horses out and then we slept in the horse trailer at the barn for most of the night. We lent someone our car. Someone took my car so that they could like leave their truck and trailer. And then it was so nice because they washed my car. Did you see it? My car is like, okay, for those of you who don't know me, my car is always like,
she has a barn car. We'll just say that. It's a barn car. It's a barn car.
And so I lent it to these people so they could leave their truck and trailer at the barn. And they brought it back today perfectly clean, filled up with gas. It was a very nice surprise. He was like, that way you don't have to be embarrassed when you go to the airport tomorrow.
Very thoughtful.
Because I have to go to Idaho.
I'll have to thank him for saving me a trip of washing your car.
Yes. So anyways, it's definitely been an adventure. I will say though that it's amazing the community that we have here. Like in crises like this, everyone chips in.
There's trucks and trailers. You haven't never met people and people are showing up, and where are we taking your horse? So here's another tip, right? For us in this fire zone, This isn't our first fire. It happens a lot in Southern California. Um, you've got to have your horse's name, phone number, your name. We put it on duct tape on the halters. We've seen people spray paint it on the side of their horse, Sharpie on the horse, anything. You've just got to, otherwise, after the fire, you might be upset that you can't find your horse for 3 weeks.
Yeah, because like my horse, so they're not all home yet because it's still quite smoky at the barn.
So they're safe, but there's a lot of smoke at our barn. So some of our horses are there and some of them are at Peck Farm, which is farther east.
But it was like in the crisis of it yesterday, I didn't know where all the horses went. Like, because I was just loading them in trailers and people were hauling them out. And so then after, I had to kind of figure out like where all the horses went, because I just didn't know. And I kind of had an idea because I would ask the people like, where are you going with them? But then my horses ended up at 3 different barns in the area.
And then, you got to get to the barn and go from stall to stall and it's dark and you're like, I think you look familiar.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's scary. I think it always puts things in perspective, like when you think, because there were a few moments yesterday, I was like, I'm going to die, or all my animals are going to die. And then you think about that, like, what would that be like to lose your horses? And then we left Levi at the barn. And then I was like worried that the barn was going to burn down. And I was like, what would it be like if I lost all my horses and my dog?
That's a bad day.
It would be
that is a bad day.
It would be a really bad day. So
anyway, the groundwork.
Do your groundwork.
Because those horses that weren't loading, we were like, wow, groundwork would have helped them.
Yeah.
And it would have helped us.
Yeah.
Right? It helps us help them.
Yeah. And like I got stepped on by one horse that wouldn't load, and another one tried to pull away from me, and it's just it's an avoidable accident.
Although
right?
we did have a couple of superstars. Tico
we had a few fabulous horses.
Tico's like, oh, there's the trailer. Whoa.
Yeah.
He like pulls you into the trailer. So
Yeah.
Some of them were easy.
Yeah.
It's not all doom and gloom. But like, oh no, I've already forgot. Whoever had that horse that, self-loads.
Yeah. Dina.
I have a client that the horse was troublesome and she spent, and she had the trailer hooked up. Julie's been.
Yeah.
And now it self-loads. She throws the lead rope over the horse's neck and the mare walks right on now.
Yeah.
And the thing was just couldn't be, it wouldn't. And she just spent a lot of time, and now that mare self-loads.
Yeah.
That's hugely valuable.
Yeah. And Deb, yes, the horses were terrified. And that's why it's so important that you do your groundwork and that your horse loads on a good day. Because like this, today I went over and I was helping Nicole on my team because Nicole just came from Canada.
3 days before this event.
And now like the whole state's on fire. And so she's been working, and she's like, her horses were loading perfectly, and she just trailered them down from Canada. And today they didn't want to go in the trailer. And the reason why is because there's fire trucks everywhere. There's flashing lights. There's helicopters overhead. It's windy. It's smoky. And so the horses are terrified. Plus we're terrified. Right?
Because your adrenaline's
our
going
heart
up.
is pounding.
And the horses are like, well, if you're scared, I'm scared. So I know what to do. Let's run away, not get in the trailer.
So it's just, it's so important. It's so important that your horse is mindful.
Because this is absolutely true. And this is why we do training. This is why the police train. This is why the military trains. This is why we train horses. Training will supplant instinct. In a moment of crisis, the training will kick in. And that's why we train them.
Yes. So anyways, that's our soapbox. We do hope that you will join the Groundwork Essentials course. I think it's like very ironic that we are doing that this week. And I know a lot of you have already signed up for the program, but that course really does go through, like, from the beginning, how to teach your horse to lead, how to teach your horse to back up, how to teach your horse to get out of your space. Like all those things that are prerequisites to trailer loading, because trailer loading is basically just ground manners, but at a very refined level, right? And so it's so important on a day-to-day basis that your horse doesn't pull on you, that your horse can put their head down, that you can back your horse up. Like all those things are essential. so that when it comes time to load them into a trailer, that you can load them.
Yeah. So that was our last couple of days.
And it's
Anyway.
not over yet. We still have to get all the horses home, and it's still quite smoky.
Yeah.
So our power came back on.
Yeah, we were out of power for
2 days.
2 days, 36 hours or so.
Yeah.
And
so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do Facebook Live, but here we are. I have to pack because I'm leaving.
And we
for
wouldn't be
Idaho.
here if there was still danger there, right? The horses are safe. It's really smoky, but we would have abandoned you if we needed to take care of those horses.
Horses first. So, all right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Don't forget to join Groundwork Essentials.
Really quick, no, we were watching the news. They have,
the
it's 20,000 acres at moment, and they have 5% containment, so it's burning.
Yes,
it is burning.
So, but it's already burned all the way around our barn. Like it burned the back fence, it burned the back side, it burned a little bit the front. So I don't know how our barn didn't burn, but
I do,
all
because
around it burned.
The guys we have a fire hydrant at every barn. We've got 5 barns on the property. There's a fire hydrant at every barn. There's a water truck, and the guys that worked there, Martin and his crew, were driving the water truck. They had a fire hose truck to that water truck, and every time something got lit, they went out and they put it out, and they poured water everywhere. And those guys saved the barn.
Yeah. So